Hello everyone. Before we start today's video, if you could all do me a solid and lightly tap the like button, perhaps share the video about and leave a comment. If you are not subscribed, subscribe as well. It would greatly help this channel. Thank you very much. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's log, subdates 221219.5. An investigation has begun to find out who is sending me these hellish ball-bag gifts. As my crew complement is quite low, it shouldn't take too long. Bork is the primary suspect. Bork is the only suspect. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I would like to talk about Just Stop Oil because it does well in views, but also because they have decided to take a brief break. We'll get to why soon, because we're instead going to cover something else first. Courtesy of The Guardian, we will be thanking Just Stop Oil protesters in years to come. Nan Howard praises the courage and bravery of activists campaigning for a greener, cleaner world. And Paul Fisher says that in the future, people will wish they had listened to them. Well, people certainly are quite fond of their hindsight. Nan Howard from Leeds had said, "I would like to thank all the Just Stop Oil protesters and any others who campaign for a cleaner, greener world. I write as an 82-year-old woman who used to join the wonderful young people who campaigned for climate justice and succeeded in getting my city to declare a climate emergency." Leeds, by the way. That's the city in question. I wonder what sort of exceptionalism our government thinks will protect children and grandchildren if it doesn't act. Freak events such as a heat dome over northern Canada and the floods that devastated parts of Germany last year show we are not immune, and the global south is paying a devastating cost in the form of drought and flooding. So thank you, all of you protesters, for your courage and determination. You'll notice on this article image some orange parts. The first one concerned a Just Stop Oil message to Suella Braverman, which was an article from the 6th of December, where the article accuses ministers of shattering the legal system and failing to tackle the climate crisis, because they are making the protesters their scapegoats. There's a point there. What they're trying to do is prohibit certain forms of protest, or make it so that the protesters had to get more creative in how they protest. The more notable of which is walking in the road, but because they're not actually stopping traffic, because they're moving forward, they haven't broken the rules, which is quite impressive. It's an old law, and it says that somebody there is quite dangerous, as I said in the last video, because they have an IQ over 1. The article also references how Suella Braverman talks tough to hide the reality of the collapsing justice system. After 12 years of tough talk on law and order, we have less of it than ever. About 75% of prisoners reoffend within 9 years of release, and prisons are so full that some inmates have been held in police cells. Meanwhile, women and people of colour are at risk from the very law enforcers who are supposed to keep them safe. Not going to be drawn in on the latter part. The prisons being overfull is an interesting one. Maybe they should do what they do in Madagascar, make them sleep next to each other like people Tetris. It's an interesting idea. They do it quite well. To the second comment, Paul Fisher. If anyone doubts the words of Indigo Rumble the Womble, I suggest they read Hothouse Earth by Bill McGuire. These brave people put their freedom at risk to try to get us to comprehend what is happening to our planet. It helps that they are employees. It also helps, some are anyway, it also helps that they have the financial backing of their parents, whereas the rest of us have to go to work. In the future, we will thank them and wish we had listened. For now, we will all just carry on as before with our collective head in the sand. Governments around the world are trying everything to stifle legitimate protest. True, along with, I believe, striking. This should be ringing loud alarm bells. But we would rather turn up the volume on Strictly. I assume that's a reference to Strictly Come Dancing, the TV show on the BBC. Hashtag defund the BBC. There are many alarm bells when it comes to protest, 100%, and I fully agree with you. When it comes to Just Stop Oil, I can't justify the government doing it. But I will admit, they have broken the law in a number of instances, so that's the part I care about. Their right to protest should be absolute. But if you're going to damage shit in the process, no, definitely not. And again, it isn't so much about people burying their head in the sand as you indicate, Paul Fisher. It is more about the fact Many people are being hugely inconvenienced and they don't care about you or just stop oil. They want to go to work. Again, you could argue this is a cost of living issue. Actually, it could also be because many people are driven by their desire to go to work, go home, rest, relax, and enjoy their life. Granted, that will have to change in some form as we seek new methods of energy consumption. I believe cold fusion has been reasonably successful of late, or a form of fusion anyway. But, as with all things, it will take time. One cannot simply Thanos snap and expect a result. Although wiping out half the world's population may well help a little bit, I highly recommend we start with... I don't know. So courtesy of the Daily Mail, who have taken time out of their hectic Meghan and Harry bashing day to talk about Just Stop Oil protesters causing a massive traffic tailback with new anti-coal mining slow walk demo as the Metropolitan Police appear to idly stand by. This is on the 14th of December 2022. This protest has been marked as the final one before Christmas, or as we call it here, the magnificently magical and majestically Moorish and mythically meaty month of Merry Meggy Moistmas. I had to write that down on a post-it note because I ballsed it up so many times. Now, I had mentioned that Just Stop Oil have done this before, because there's a loophole in the law that doesn't stop them from being in the road as long as they are moving and not actually stopping the traffic, which is a far cry from when they caused an accident on the M25. It should be noted, some protesters are still in fact in prison after months of demonstrations. So in this, Just Stop Oil activists returned to the streets of London for their final protest, ahead of Christmas, where they blocked traffic during peak hour while the Metropolitan Police officers watched on. After a year of headline-grabbing stunts, 17 demonstrators set off from Finsbury Park by Manor House Station at 8 AM, wrapped up in warm beanies, scarves and gloves, because the temperature dropped to -2. Later in that morning, they were also spotted in Camden. They held up their banners provided by Just Stop Oil and shuffled very slowly through the street, bringing northbound traffic to a grinding halt behind them. In encouraging people to join the cause, the group assured protesters that the action was legal, despite 2 arrests on day 1 of these slow marches. They stopped. A spokesperson revealed this would be the final one before Christmas, promoting criticism from some that they're wanting to keep warm and avoid the sub-zero temperatures. Well, if you're not committed to the cause, would you like us to do it for you? Our banners will be different from yours. We'll even do you a favour and write them in reverse so they look completely different, akin to that of Yvonne Niage. The group are standing against the proposed Cumbrian coal mine, which would increase emissions of about 400,000 tonnes of CO2 a year, but in turn produce up to 500 new jobs. This is something the government is championing because of how green this coal mine will be. I think it's folly, personally, but I'm amused that the Conservatives had the balls to actually do this. In attendance, a 67-year-old grandmother and former nurse from Bristol said she felt the need to stand beside all the brave young people in order to stop the wanton destruction of their future, saying, "Shame on you, Mr. Sunak, for allowing your government to support oil and gas expansion. Shame on you for allowing a new coal mine that nobody wants or needs. Shame on you for demonizing peaceful people. You can ban us, revile us, lock us up, but you won't stop us. We will not be complicit in the destruction of everything we hold dear." This person, named Sheila Shatford, spent 13 days in prison for her past actions with Just Stop Oil. And yes, I mispronounced your surname on purpose because it tickled me. Another person, Peter Smith, nowhere near as interesting, said that the stark reality is terrifying. If we continue down the road we are currently on, we don't have a future. We face starvation and misery and the loss of all we hold dear. Normal people need to take a stand and support JSO in stopping new fossil fuel licenses and moving towards a sustainable future. The only thing I hold dear is whiskey. We're golden otherwise. Somebody called Ludi Simpson, a retired planner from Shipley, said, "I fear for my children's future. My action is from the heart and the head. I know politicians can do the right thing if they listen to the facts. Their inaction is burning up our lives. I doubt it, after we saw how well they handled the coronavirus vaccine rollout. Which ones were tested again? Oh, and how about the fact that when it comes to the argument of legalizing marijuana, the science is against what they think. They refuse to listen to scientists unless it suits an agenda. You have that in America as well. When the CDC and even the WHO said something different from the government line or message, the government forced them to change it. It has never been about doing the right thing. It's always been about how good they can look doing it. To finish the video concerning Just Stop Oil, we need to now talk about the Metropolitan Police Chief, Sir Mark Rowley, who has said he is deeply concerned about the impact of Just Stop Oil demonstrations on policing in London. However, when he was giving evidence to the Commons Home Affairs Committee, Mark Rowley had said that the Highways Agency, now known as the National Highways, had advised the police that protesters who locked themselves on gantries of the M25 represented a safety hazard to motorists and should be removed before the road was reopened, because he was happy to simply leave them there. Asked why he couldn't leave them there and allow traffic to continue, he confirmed this by saying, "I'm completely up for that. The Highways Agency feel there is a safety risk. They are concerned. I think probably more about drivers being distracted than they are about the individuals. I would love to ignore all these characters, but it is not always possible." He's also confirmed that 12,000 officers have been involved in policing the Just Stop Oil protests in the course of October and November, saying, "It is deeply concerning to me that the 12,000 officer shifts that weren't policing London's communities because they were dealing with protesters in the centre of London on the M25 or wherever." He also said that Parliament has left a very grey space about what is lawful and what is unreasonable disruption, and are expecting police to work out a line in the middle of it. And this is a problem because if the police touch them, they could be sued. This grey area is created because the police's inability to actually do anything means that they are impotent. Americans are known for suing, our police are known for being well and truly cucked. He also confirmed that because of that, they do not know what they can do. He also continued by saying things get blown around politically depending on who's protesting, and what the issue is depends on who's saying the police are too soft and who's saying the police are too hard on the same incident. That is the difficult context we are working in, confirming my hypothesis. He said that the police have become much quicker in removing protesters, but their legal advice was that they should not physically tear off protesters who glue their hands to the road, which the police in France do. So do the pedestrians. Quoted as saying, "Our advice is that we need to use solvent removers for the glue on the basis that reduces the harm done to protesters. I will always go and reflect on it. The law is about using minimal force. If there is a way within a few minutes to remove somebody without causing significant harm to their hands, then we are expected to do that. I'm going to be pedantic and say that the hand can still be intact. It just won't be connected to the person's body. We can then use a jackhammer, maybe cut some of the tarmac out, and then just stitch that back on. It's totally fine. If it's their wanking hand, don't worry. If you can't feel it, it's a bit of a stranger danger, isn't it?" Now, rather amusingly, members of the public have grown increasingly frustrated and honked their horns shouting "F the protest." Metropolitan Chief Inspector Matt Ashmead ran over to a car and, no lie, threatened him with a ticket by saying, "That is improper use of a horn and I will give you a ticket. Beeping your horn in our ear isn't helping, is it? I'll give you a ticket if you do it again. The courts of law have said that if we arrest them, it's an unlawful arrest, so it's not the police's fault. Tell me you are well and truly cucked and a moron without telling me you are well and truly cucked and a complete and utter moron." I'm not going to lie, I am keenly interested to see how Just Stop Oil continue their antics going into 2023. No doubt they'll start off strong and keep pushing forward while the current government ignores them, because that's pretty much their way around it at the moment. They haven't disrupted things enough for the government to simply get rid of them, or to find a way of doing it that makes them look good. Although I doubt they can look good even if they sat and discussed things with leaders from Just Stop Oil, because, well, if you've heard any of them speak, it's akin to a posh person going, "Oh, rabble, 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 rabble."